Is remote work right for you? With the state of technology today and plenty of successful case studies due to COVID-19, many people are considering going remote. Unfortunately, most people just aren't sure if full-time remote work is going to work for them, while others are rushing off to remote work without even considering how it will play out for them. We will break down the things you need to know before making the decision to go remote or not. We'll also give 5 positives and 5 negatives of remote work. Considerations should revolve around a few different things. 1, what type of work do you do? 2, what is your family and house situation? 3, what is your personality style? And then 4, what are your future plans? The less human interaction your current job has, the easier this transition will be. If you are in an operational role or some job that is behind the scenes, then remote work may make a lot of sense for you. If, on the other hand, you're in customer service or communications, you will need to spend more time ensuring you can still adequately function in your role while being remote. Your family and housing will have an impact. The more people at your house and the smaller your house, the harder remote work will be. If you have a large family and a small house, then you may struggle to really find good workspace for those times when everyone's at the house, but you still have work to do. Personality may be one of the most overlooked factors. Some people thrive off of social interactions, and others do best without them. I wouldn't get caught up on extrovert versus introvert, but rather what gives you energy. Many introverts aren't great in social situations, but they still enjoy the one-on-one interactions with other people. It should be obvious that remote work has a massive impact on this area. Virtual meetings are not the same as in-person meetings. If most of your interactions with others happen at work, think hard about what it would be like to lose all that social interaction. Then lastly, what are your future goals? What are the plans you have for your career? Many companies allow remote work, but at higher level jobs, you're required to be on site. Know that your ambition may cause you to go back to the office. Try to find out your company's policy and make an informed decision before deciding to go remote. Entrepreneurship also ties in here. If it is appealing to you, then work at home will save a lot of wasted time that you could spend on side hustles that you would not be able to devote to that if you were off at an office somewhere. So let's break down some positives and some negatives of remote work. First, let's go over 5 positives of working remote. Number 1 is finding free time. It's amazing just how much time you waste in an office setting. Whether it's the drive to and from work, to and from lunch, stops by coworkers' office, or just downtime in general. In an office, downtime is wasted, typically with social media, chit-chat, or browsing the internet. Being remote, a lot of this time is eliminated or is obvious and can be used for more useful things. Working on your house, spending time with your family, or working on side projects that you've been wanting to get done. Number 2, flexibility with your time. Working remote, you can wake up early and have alone time, or you can wake up right at work time. Being remote eliminates a lot of that nosy interest in when you come and go that is typical in an office setting. Most companies that offer remote work have some expectation that the reason you're doing it, in part, is the benefit of flexible working conditions. And I've never experienced negative feedback based on my time schedule within my remote roles. Number 3 is job opportunities. Remote workers are no longer constrained to the jobs in their hometown or being forced to move to take a job. You can search for jobs nationwide and at any company you would like. This is particularly great for those who have high ambitions but live in a small town. Number 4, lifestyle changes. Similar to job opportunities, you can choose the lifestyle you want and live where you want. Because your location is no longer dependent on your job, you can uproot and move to any part of the country you want unless your company has certain restrictions. Number 5 is compensation. This one is dependent on your job and the company you work for. Remote work in itself doesn't pay more, but you can apply and begin working for companies who pay more than your local companies. Larger national companies tend to pay more than smaller local companies are able to afford. My first remote job was the same exact job that I previously had in the office in my local hometown. But the company I started to work at had a starting pay over the maximum of my previous company. And I've heard many stories to this same effect from other people who have made this jump to remote. So now let's talk about 5 negatives of remote work. Number 1, promotional opportunities. As referenced earlier, a lot of companies will allow for remote work, but at higher levels, they still want you on site. This will probably fade out as a practice over time as remote work normalizes, but at this point it's still a concern to consider depending on your goals and maybe where you currently are within that hierarchy. 2, social interactions. You will have a lot less social interactions. You will find virtual meetings are far from being similar to face-to-face interactions. If you have healthy friendships currently, this is far less of an issue for you. If, on the other hand, you rely heavily on coworkers for your social releases, then it may be a pretty big issue for you. Number 3, limited structure. Some will see this as a benefit, but if you enjoy oversight and guidance at work, then you may really struggle with remote work. Most leaders actively hiring for remote jobs are expecting to get people with a certain level of self-monitoring. If you struggle to get work done or make decisions solely on your own, you may really want to spend some time considering this factor before choosing to go remote. You will have far less oversight and will need to do things on your own time in the way you think is best. Number 4, increased expenses. Now this may seem counterintuitive given the reduced gas and lunch spending. However, being home all day gives you a lot of insight into what you need and what you don't have. Additionally, you may find yourself using the downtime to shop on the internet. I understand this one is probably dependent on the individual, but I've heard enough stories of people who have upped their expenses that I think this is worth saying. Number 5, longer days. Many people who work remote, especially early on, feel obligated to work longer hours. Being remote limits the awareness that leaders have of your day-to-day work, and this creates a mental concern with many people, and they feel the need to work longer hours than normal to prove that they're working. You need to come to terms with your schedule and be prepared to stick with it, and don't fall into this trap. As I mentioned, I've never had complaints about my time schedule from any leaders in a remote job. This issue is primarily a mental issue where people feel like they have to justify themselves. Let your work justify itself. All things considered, I believe it is really up to each individual to determine if they're going to make this change to remote or not. Remote work is great, and many people love the experience, but I don't believe it is for everyone. Take some self-assessment and make sure that remote work suits you. Ask people you know what their experience has been. Dig deep and approach it like a psychologist and gain every insight possible. Lastly, fear is natural and people resist change. Assess your fears, but never make wholesale career decisions based solely off of fear. Think about these positives and negatives. Assess your current job, your current personality, your family, your home life, and really make an educated decision about what is best for you in your situation. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. And we'll see you guys next time.